Remember that 22 times the president said he didn't have the authority to do what he eventually did, and that is to exceed his constitutional authority.
Let's bring you up to speed, and the last word from inside the Beltway is that the U.S. Senate has passed their bill to fund Homeland Security through September 30th. There are no immigration restrictions on it. We're waiting for the House to vote later on the day. That battle is just really beginning, because if you think about it, we are now getting right down to the hardcore time of whether or not this government will fund itself. One guy who is always willing to take on the government 24/7, 365, when he's not hosting a television show, Donald Trump is at CPAC this afternoon, and he right now is in front of everybody, and he is giving them his ideas on where America needs to go. Let's listen in to Mr. Trump.
Really important that we have people at that top position that know, because the country has such tremendous potential, unbelievable potential, and we just are not using it. Now, on ISIS, nobody, if I decide to run and win, nobody would be tougher than Donald Trump. Nobody. I would hit them so hard and so fast that they wouldn't know what happened. I would find a general. Remember the old days of General MacArthur and General Patton and these great generals. Now, we must have somebody in there. But I laugh as I say, and it's laugh through tears, as you say, look, they're announcing when they're going to attack the other side. How often do you see that? In 2 weeks from now, we're sending soldiers over here, we're going to attack this. General MacArthur is spinning in his grave when he sees what we do. So you got to hit him hard, you got to hit him firm, and you can't play games. You got to go hard and fast and firm. And there's somebody there that's going to do the job. Now, we have a thinking, Bo Bergdahl. We all know we make a deal, Bo Bergdahl, for 5 killers, 5 terrorists who are right now out there trying to kill us.
Nobody makes a deal like Donald Trump, and he's trying to cut a couple of deals right now at CPAC. He brings in MacArthur, Patton, and so many others. The war is on. The battle's always on for Donald Trump. Let's talk about a battle of another kind right now. Our guest is the representative for Pennsylvania's 4th Congressional District, a former member of our military, having earned the Bronze Star, flying over 200 combat flight hours, member of the House Committee on Homeland Security, and facing down the barrel of a shutdown. Scott Perry joins us today. Congressman, thank you so much for being here today.
Well, thank you very much for having me.
Boy, how does it feel to hear Donald Trump go ahead and throw out MacArthur and Patton in there? That is one fired-up human being at the moment, Congressman.
Well, listen, that harkens back to the days when America was committed to winning wars and defeating the enemy, and unfortunately, things have changed very much at the top, and we all recognize that. It's an unfortunate situation, but these are the consequences of elections.
Well, the enemy right now, or at least many people would feel the enemy, are the Democrats on the other side as they fight against the Republicans over funding Homeland Security. You, of course, know that the Senate has got the 3-week bill in there. We're waiting for the House. Do you expect the House to pass the temporary bill?
I'm not sure. I think, I think there are a lot of opinions either way on this thing. The biggest issue is, of course, that the Senate Democrats are the ones that have shut down or are potentially shutting down DHS. It is not the House of Representatives whatsoever, not Democrats or Republicans. And the House passed a clean bill. And let's define a clean bill. A clean bill is a bill that funds the department, allows it to have all its functions. The one thing that some people don't like about it is it does not allow the president to spend any money on an illegal action that the courts have even sided with the House of Representatives on. I don't know much. It's a bill that funds everything lawfully. So that is the clean bill. It remains to be seen what we're going to do. Quite honestly, listen, I understand that the Democrats don't even want to discuss it, let alone vote on it. I still would say it's their fault. They're the ones that are holding up. It's not about blame. It's about getting things done. And if they have, they should at least want to have the conversation. Vote yes, vote no, vote whichever way, but let your constituents know your stand. But at the same time, if they're not interested or willing to do that, want to hold the country up, I think it's up to the Senate leadership to make the provisions necessary to force them to a vote. And if it means changing 40 years of protocol and pomp and circumstance, so be it. America's stake is in peril, and the Constitution is at stake, and there's no higher calling at this point.
You touched on a couple of things, but we're right up against a break. Congressman, please hold on, because we have a laundry list to go through when we come back after the break, because there is more from inside the Beltway. There is another executive order, this time talking about bullets. A report about $3 billion being paid by the government to Obamacare, and there's still the issue of the shutdown looming. That and so much more. We cover it all right here on Midpoint. We're back to work with what seems to be an unprecedented time in the nation's capital. Lots of issues happening. Welcome back, Republican Pennsylvania Congressman Scott Perry. Congressman, let's get to what you used the word peril just before the break. So let me ask you quite frankly, you understand what's happening with security in the nation. If indeed midnight tonight comes, the Department of Homeland Security is not funded, is this nation in immediate greater peril?
I don't know that it's in any immediate greater peril. Let's be clear. People have been coming across our borders and staying for years, and of course this president has only increased that situation. Unless somebody were to come into the country and execute an attack post any shutdown, that's where there'd be increased peril. These people, they're great people at the Department of Homeland Security. They're going to be on the job. 87% of this is automatically mandatory funded and mandatory reporting. So I don't think that there's going to be any additional peril, but that's going to be the call from the administration to whip up hysteria either way. But I do think we have to consider that it is a more dangerous nation, regardless of what John Kerry says. And we need to be concerned about that and act accordingly.
There's many people on the left and a lot of the mainstream media who will say that it is the right that is whipping up hysteria when it comes to all this. Yet you just used it in the other sense. You believe that it's the president and his office and the Democrats that are whipping it up, correct? How so?
Well, there's no doubt about it. I mean, when you got Secretary Jay Johnson out there and all the president's minions talking about, Republicans are shutting down Homeland Security. Let's be clear. The Republican Congress, the Republican-led Congress, passed an appropriations bill that completely funds the Department of Homeland Security and just disallows them from spending any money on a court-agreed with illegal action by the president. We have done our part. It's completely, they're just reversing the story. And, of course, we have, as usual, all too willing mainstream media there to support them. And that's what people are really hearing. It's not the truth, but a lot of people don't have the time to go out and figure out what the truth is.
It would appear to many people that Harry Reid and the Democrats right now are holding a big hammer, and it almost would seem, at least in some of the writing and some of the print reports, that the Democrats are almost giddy with the fact that they have pushed you and your fellow Republicans into a corner right now over immigration and DHS funding. How much does that aggravate you?
Well, it does aggravate me, and I think it aggravates the American people who work very hard to get Republicans, especially elected into the Senate, so that the situation that they saw for the last 6 years would change. They put their faith and their vote in the Republican Party and those Senate candidates, and now with the Senate fully and firmly in Republican control, Harry Reid is still running the table because they refuse to. Because they refuse to vote on something or have a discussion about it. To my point, look, all this pomp and circumstance and 40 years of rules and procedure in the Senate doesn't mean anything when the Constitution is shredded and the country's going down the drain. And it's time, if need be, that Mitch McConnell take the same extraordinary measures that Harry Reid did when he was in the Senate and Republicans tried to hold things up and move things forward for the American people. They were elected to lead and change the battlefield, and they are refusing to do it. Of course, the Democrats are the prime issue in the Senate right now, but it still requires Republican leadership to do what is necessary to preserve the fidelity of the Constitution.
Congressman, I got less than 2 minutes left. Two things I'd like your quick reaction to. First of all, speaking of executive actions with the president, he is going to impose gun control on the nation, targeting the AR-15 style semi-automatic bullets through an executive action. There are people who are up in arms about that. Your reaction?
Yeah, well, I'm up in arms too, but listen, this is a celebrity president who's interested in his ideology, and if he can't get it one way, he's going to get it another. He couldn't get his victory legislatively because the American people spoke very loudly about that and said they're absolutely, completely opposed to that. And so he's going to do what he normally does, is work through the regulatory process to equal and exact the same means, which is you might have a weapon, in your house or in your possession. But if you can't get any ammunition for it, it is worthless. And that's exactly what he wants. He, as usual, he's an ideologue, and the law-abiding citizen is the one that's going to suffer, not the criminal.
And quickly, what should we take when Paul Ryan asks the U.S. Treasury Department, or the U.S. Treasury Department comes in? They say to Paul Ryan, no, we will not come in and explain $3 billion in Obamacare payments. Where's this money going?
Well, listen, it's part and parcel that the fourth branch of government now, the regulatory agencies, have become too big, too unwieldy, and non-responsive to their bosses, which are the American people and their bosses' duly elected representatives in Paul Ryan. This is nothing new. It's just getting worse, and it's fully reasoned why the American people absolutely need to get engaged, not only demand representation of the Congress to force these issues, but also demand representation at the administration, at the presidential level, to say this is unacceptable. We do not accept this. We demand this information. It is our money. It is our policy. We want to know what's going on.
Stunning arrogance, wouldn't you agree?
Stunning. Absolutely, Brett.
We've got so much going on in Washington right now, it's going to keep our head spinning for a while. Congressman Scott Perry, always a pleasure. Thanks so much for joining us, sir.
Thank you very much for the opportunity.
All right, take care. From Congress to the Senate, switch next to the biggest change in American lifestyle since invention of the sleeper sofa, which is where plenty of people will be watching their broadband and playing games as the internet world changes everything. Net neutrality, left versus right. It's next, right here on Midpoint.